Howdy, Space Rangers, Captain Phoenix here, and we are back with the Rings of Power Season 2, every inaccuracy from the book to show compared. Yeah, that's what the series is named. That's what we're going for. Today we're dealing with episode 5 titled Halls of Stone. So of course, before I jump into the video, we of course have to go over the quick criteria that I normally do for this series. But as said, if you want to know what my rules are for going over the book inaccuracies of the show, go watch the previous video so you can catch up on this one. If you just want to jump into it, here are the quick criteria I'm going to go through. For one, I'm putting down book inaccuracies and some accuracies. I'm not going to be talking about the overall quality of the show. I'm just going to be pointing out the differences this show has as an adaptation to the book that it's based on. Number 2 is I'm not going to be going into book spoilers, only episode spoilers. So any future events in the book will not be talked about, or at the very least will be very lightly referenced. Number 3 is that I will only be talking about and referencing the Silmarillion because it is the only Lord of the Rings book I've read that is connected to this show. So there's no Lost Tales, there is no Children of Hurin book or whatever. I'm only talking about the stuff I've read from the Silmarillion. Number 4, this is to my community, no excessive bashing of this show. I will have some criticisms of this show and also have some praises here and there. However, I refuse to go into either extreme until the season is over when I can give my review. And all I can ask is that you, my audience, also respect that as well. We will not bash this show until the finale comes out. In the meantime, let us have only civil discussions here. I especially want to see what people think, what book fans think about the show so far and how well it lifts these moments from the books. That's what we're here for. And again, guys, just remember that just because the show makes a change doesn't mean it's bad. Again, just because something is inaccurate doesn't mean it's bad. Sometimes the change has been made for a reason. It just means that overall the creators of the show have interpreted the text differently or had different plans for their vision. And of course, once again, huge credit and shout out to Nerd of the Rings. He's the guy who I'm stealing the clips from and the slideshow and whatnot. This is his video footage. Go check his channel out. It's way bigger than mine. Goes way more into depth with Lord of the Rings discussions and content and all that stuff. And again, he's one of the more balanced Tolkien channels I've seen out there. Go subscribe to him. Link to his channel down in the description below. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Down in Goblin Town. Behold! The doors of Durin. The new west gate of our mountain.
While it's not mentioned in the Silmarillion, it is true Celebrimbor and Narvi made the doors of Durin in the books. I would have, however, liked to see the doors being made. All we get is one lead up with Celebrimbor messing with Mithril in the moonlight, and that's it. We don't see them building the doors. Kind of a missed opportunity, if you ask me.
Rings for men. I did not say anything about rings. It is a game you play, is it not? Sowing seeds in others' minds and then convincing them that the fruit is of their own fault.
I don't know how to feel about Celebrimbor making this sort of meta joke, considering he's infamous for being one of the characters most bamboozled by Sauron.
Ever teetering between glory and ruin. I fear Numenor more than any land in Middle-earth.
Sauron did fear the Númenóreans. He couldn't even beat them by pure military strength and had to find other means to bring about their downfall. I like this foreshadowing.
Have you seen it? Across our western seas, the White Tower of Perisea, a gateway to the Undying Lands. I have not. Only the keenest eye can. And only from the peak of the Minotaur. I reckon the elves placed it there on purpose, so that every sunset serves as a reminder that our days must end. And theirs will not.
All this is true in the books. Nice.
The scepter is now in yours, Father. Is that not high enough?
All my life, I believed it was.
I forgot to mention this in my last video, but Pharazôn didn't steal the throne and scepter from an eagle showing up. That much I did say. However, I forgot to include that he stole it by marrying Miriel, his cousin. I don't know if they'll do that in the show, but I thought I'd let you all know. Also forget to mention this in the previous video, but there's no mention of Isildur's mother in the Silmarillion. That's why I didn't talk about her.
Once, when you were at her breast, your mother prophesied that you would come to ill ends. Impress me in the task that I'm about to place upon you. And I will tell you, fail to do so, and I shall have to find other places to make use of you.
There's not much I could find about Pharazôn's kids in the Akallabeth, so I can't confirm if this prophecy is true or not.
It was you who opened my heart again to the way of the faithful. We swore to keep serving.
Elendil was always one of the faithful. He didn't need Miriel to pull him back.
For years, that Palantir has shown me only Orion's downfall. But when you touched it, that vision was gone. Changed to a new path. Alazon's kingship is a part of that path, and so are you. You have asked for my command. Now it is given.
Woof! I won't go into it cause book spoilers, but woof!
Captain leaving deck!
Thank you, Captain. The Valar protects you. Enough.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Captain. The Valar bless you, Captain. The Valar bless you. Thank you, Captain. The Valar bless you.
Thank you, Captain.
How do you think this ends? Silence!
Both Elendil and his father were stripped of their rank in the books, his father more publicly. So this comes from the chapter The Akalabeth on 3 page 27. This is where they basically let Amandil go. And also, yes, I am naked. I don't have my hats today. Again, we're kind of moving around recording areas. This series is fun. It's just airing in the background while I'm just going through life. But putting that to the side, we have this here about Amandil. The chief among them, to whom they looked for leading and courage in evil days, was Amandil, counselor of the king, and his son Elendil, whose sons were Isildur and Anarion, then young men by the reckoning of Numenor. Amandil and Elendil were great ship captains, and they were of the line of Elros Tar Miniatur, though not of the ruling house, to whom belonged the crown and the throne in the city of Armenalos. In the days of their youth together, Amandil had been dear to Pharazôn, and though he was of the elf friends, he remained in his council until the coming of Sauron. Now he was dismissed, for Sauron hated him above all others in Numenor. But he was so noble and had been so mighty a captain of the sea that he was still held in honor by many of the people, and neither the king nor Sauron dared to lay hands on him as of yet. So as you can see, even when Amandil was let go, the people still respected him, which is kind of what we see happen to Elendil in the show. So it's nice to see that Elendil is gaining the same respect his father did. It's nice to see Elendil get the same treatment his father would have gotten. And yeah, even though I know like this still happens kind of chronologically not accurate, because like Amandil and Elendil only get fired after Sauron comes to Numenor, it is still interesting to see what happens when Ar-Pharazôn takes over first, and then Elendil struggling with the kingdom changing, and then just how things will even get way more worse once Sauron shows up. So I think that's really cool. This is a change that makes sense by merging two characters / storylines together. You save on time while also delivering the emotions you need.
Should be delving much deeper. Who set these restrictions? You can say. Decades ago. Let's strike them. Strike them, Master. Or I'll fight. Wait, you took it off. Wait, what have you done with it? That's there, Sam. You took it off. You said your hand was feeling. It was.
In the books, it was made explicitly clear that the will of the dwarves was hardier than that of men and elves. Durin shouldn't be corrupted or addicted to the ring this quickly and easily. This also comes from the chapter of the Rings of Power in the Third Age, literally a page after the one I read about the elves in the Region. The dwarves indeed proved tough and hard to tame. They ill endure the domination of others, and the thoughts of their hearts are hard to fathom, nor can they be turned to shadows. They use their rings only for the getting of wealth, but wrath and an overmastering of greed of gold were kindled in their hearts, of which evil enough after came to the prophet of Sauron. So yeah, clearly Sauron couldn't command the dwarves the same way he wanted to command the men and elves. So Durin should not be going to cuckoo crazy town. This
Most noble High King, I write this letter to convey my deep joy on hearing of the success of the Three Rings in Lindon. As requested, the forge is dark, and the workshop is empty. A precious calm has settled over the city, and I foresee brighter days ahead. I hope you are able to make a visit soon. Until then, I remain, as ever, your loyal servant, Lord Celebrimbor.
nitpick time. Didn't Celebrimbor originally say that he was closing up the forge and that he'd be moving to Lindon? Why is he asking the king to come and see him? As said in my previous video, the rings enhance the abilities of the wearer. The reason the one turned men and hobbits invisible is because they were naturally craftier and sneakier than other races. It would not turn elves invisible. Again, as said in my last video, it would increase their foresight instead. Even the way the dwarves use their rings in this episode is more canonical to their book counterparts, making them more profitable in their mining operations. I honestly do not know why they would change the law for this one scene. And yeah, okay, back on the dwarves scene, even though they do increase their mining operations, we still have that whole caveat of Durin the Third being corrupted kind of quickly. But like aside from that, yeah, no, the dwarves are more canonical to how their rings work than this one for the elves. And I guess while we're on the topic, the rings don't really turn you invisible. They transport you to the unseen world, which is invisible to most creatures. However, it is stated in the books that immortals like Maya, Ainur, and elves born in Valinor have a presence both in the seen and unseen world. And since Celebrimbor was born in Valinor, he, out of all the elves in that room, should have been able to see Murdania when she wore the ring.
We sought to fortify the alloy by adding more mithril.
No. If you wanted to do that, you should have... It would save us immeasurable hours of toil if we would offer this one single word of counsel.
Though I will say, I love Sauron doing an intentionally bad job to push Celebrimbor into a corner.
We must atone for our mistakes, and the only way we can, by completing the rings together. The Nine must do far more than bring aid to men. They must bring balance to the entire project. They must draw strength from the Three, and somehow redeem the Seven. They must redeem us all. We shall work night and day. New designs, new panels, a new process. I will be with you at every turn. Have I made myself plain?
Yes.
It starts now.
Let's talk about this for a second. As I mentioned in the last video, in the books, the rings were made only for the elves in mind. Sauron only distributed them to other races after the siege of Eregion. Celebrimbor loved making the rings. There was no need to convince him. This section comes from the chapter of the Rings of Power. It was in Eregion that the councils of Sauron were most gladly received. For in that land, the Noldor desired ever to increase the skill and subtlety of their work. Moreover, they were not at peace in their hearts, since they had refused to return into the West, and they desired both to stay in Middle-earth, which they loved, and yet to enjoy the bliss of those that had departed. Therefore they hearkened to Sauron, and they learned of him many things, for his knowledge was great. In those days, the smiths of Austin Ethel surpassed all that they had contrived before, and they took thought, and they made rings of power. But Sauron guided their labors, and he was aware of all that they did, for his desire was to set a bond upon the elves, and to bring them under his vigilance. So, yeah, clearly, I think it's safe to say that the elves enjoyed working for Sauron when he was Anatar. Here, because the three were made fast, the show has to bend over backwards to explain why the rest need to be made. And I, for one, am not a fan of that. We're taking away time that could have been used to adapt other stuff from the books to fix the show's own mess. While I appreciate the showrunners acknowledging their mistake and taking the time to show off more of Sauron's corruption, we also wouldn't be in this mess if it weren't for their need for a mystery box in season 1. This is a case of making an unnecessary change from the original, wasting potential and it not benefiting you. The showrunners, that is. Not good for an adaptation. But as said, I appreciate the effort to recognize the mistake and at least doing the work to course correct.
That will not be possible. I have reason to believe that Sauron is the architect of all this.
My king, Eregion is the very jewel of Elvendom. If what you fall, it would be a mortal blow for all in Middle-earth. You must send aid.
Our armies cannot defeat both Adar and Sauron. Not alone.
Nice foreshadowing and an interesting way to drum up hype for the finale. To make it plainly clear again, not only was Galadriel never part of the elven military in the Second Age, but she never sided with the orcs at the Siege of Eregion, even if it was to take down Sauron. Actually, she wasn't in the Siege of Eregion, period. And now it's time for my general thoughts. This was another build-up episode for the finale, which makes me dislike episode 4 even more, because it feels like filler now. The awful season 1 pacing is also creeping back in. On the bright side at least, I liked how this episode actually focuses on the relevant and well, good subplots. Sauron's manipulation was great this episode and I actually felt bad for the elves. I wish we had more build-up to Pharazôn's arc of hating being mortal, but hey, better late than never I guess. The sound design in this show is also amazing, and I dare say the music here is better than in season 1. We have the old scores like Khazad Dûn, but new ones like the rings being forged, Valandil's death, and again, Tom Bombadil's song. If I were to give any unrestrained praise to this show, it's the music. Though they really do be blasting the ring poem theme every time Anatar is even mentioned, don't they? It's the Imperial March in Clone Wars all over again. Back to the negatives, yeah, the pacing sucks. I don't like how we're diverting from book moments only to circle back to them. It feels like the show is wasting time and dragging its feet, again, much like it did in season 1. It's only so long before the general audience gets sick of this ring around the rosy. If you're gonna make a change, commit to it. I'd have more respect for you that way anyway. Again, I'm not against them making changes, but if it affects the story negatively, especially future events in the story, then I gotta ask what the point of the change was. Overall, way better than episode 3 and 4, but my hope for the last 3 episodes is solely on the action being good at this point, and I know we're gonna have to revisit Rune at some point, and I'm just dreading that. Anyways guys, that's gonna be it for today. Again, subscribe to Nerd of the Rings. I would not have these videos, or they would not be of this quality without his help and input. So please guys, go subscribe to him, share some love, and let's talk civilly in the comments. What do you think of this episode? I've been looking around in the fan base in the last week, and a lot of people really liked this one, way more than I did, and I'm happy for them. I'm glad that we finally have a Rings of Power episode that most of the fan base can be like, yeah, this is some good stuff. I'm hoping next episode can build up off this. From what I've heard, next episode also would focus on runes, so hey, very much looking forward to that one. Please leave me all your civil thoughts down in the comments below. I will of course like and respond to as many of them as I can, because hey, we're here for the conversation at the end of the day. Thank you so very much for watching guys. I've been Captain Phoenix. Be sure to like if you like, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that notification button to be part of the team, and of course click the links all over the place to watch the previous videos. And with that, I will see you in another universe. Goodbye my Rangers.